Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to Late Night Learning. I am your host, Dr. Anthony Palomba. Now, today we're going to continue on with our lecture surrounding entertainment and psychology, kind of getting a sense of why we do what we do with entertainment and media. What attracts us from a psychological perspective when we're viewing television, playing video games, or watching a movie. Let's get started. And so, this slide really gets at social comparison theory. That is another theory in this lecture that looks at how we compare ourselves to people. And so some of you may have watched The Real Housewives of Orange County. Some of you try to keep up with the Kardashians. I don't try to keep up with them, but some of you might try to keep up with them. In these shows, it's kind of a human inclination or interest or compunction into comparing ourselves with these characters. Look at Beverly's bathroom. I wish I had that bathroom. Boy, she looks great in that dress. I should see if Versace or Gucci makes those dresses so that I can buy one, right? We're always comparing ourselves to celebrities or to characters or to other people that we see in media. And so this is inherently tied to a concept called product placement. Product placement is wonderful because if you're watching a reality television show, such as one of the Jersey Shore spinoffs, Real Housewives spinoffs, Vanderpump Rules, or anything like that, or Love and Hip Hop, it's likely that you will see a lot of product placement. Why? Well, these producers tend to know that we like to compare ourselves toward other people and with other people. And so it follows suit that we're inclined to try to replicate the lives and behaviors that we see in front of us. This includes going to the same clothing shops and restaurants that these characters or actresses and actors have gone to. It's doing the same things that they've done so we can get just a step closer to living like them. Right? I'm sure you have some friends who have started tanning after seeing the Jersey Shore or have started going to upscale restaurants in their city after seeing the Real Housewives of Atlanta or New York or Orange County or wherever it may be. They know that fans like to replicate lives of actors, cast members, reality TV stars, and things like that. So insofar as settings and worlds and destinations can be featured, these present other opportunities to allow people to kind of live vicariously through these characters, but then to also do these things, to go to these restaurants and bars and places to kind of live like these men and women. And so celebrities can kind of serve as a baseline for ourselves conceptually in how we think of ourselves in an idyllic sense and in a practical sense as well. And so social comparison theory, which was first founded by Festinger in about 1956, 1955, still rings true today. There is a ton of comparison that goes on with us. And this especially rings true in social media. Social media provides influencers, YouTube celebrities, other leaders in other industries opportunities to market themselves and opportunities to kind of live and present some sort of idyllic lifestyle. There was a magazine article I had read in The Economist a few months ago, I believe, in which there are now airplane terminals in which you can go down and take photos of yourself in an airplane as though you're flying and living this rich, wealthy, exuberant lifestyle in which it's just another day traveling, even though the plane isn't moving. Taking those pictures allows you to kind of present this incredible, sensational lifestyle that other people may want to replicate, engage in, or try to assert themselves through whatever means that they have. And so social comparison theory gets into this idea of that we do compare ourselves to other people. Let's go back to the slide. The last bullet here to kind of consider and wrap this idea up is how might this impact how we position ourselves? How do we position ourselves? We see celebrities, we see certain modes of pop culture, MTV, VH1, Snapchat, Twitter. These are certain elements by which we are instructed and informed on what is pop culture, what is cool, what is trendy, what we should be doing. Even what I'm wearing right now has been informed to a great extent from seeing other guys, from reading other magazines, from watching certain TV programs to get a better sense of how I want to dress and how I want to present myself. So there's certainly an intrinsic component into social comparison theory as well. Let's move along. Identification with characters. And so I had to say this twice because we have two characters here. Taj P. Henderson playing Cookie Lyons on Empire, and of course, Michael Scott on The Office, played by Steve Carell. The bottom photo is of Prison Mike, which I encourage you to watch on YouTube. It is a hysterical clip in which Michael Scott pretends to be a prisoner. But that is a clip from Prison Mike, or a shot from Prison Mike. So identification with characters, it is something so crucial, so paramount to entertainment consumption, I elected to write it twice. Identification with characters, identification with characters. We identify with characters and we love to connect with them. The first theory that I have here to explain this attraction is parasocial interactions, also known as parasocial relationships, and I'll explain the difference here. There are parasocial interactions. We have these interactions all the time. Some of you might watch Blackish or Off the Boat or Big Bang Theory or This Is Us or any of these other shows currently on television, and you might have connections or you might have exposure to certain characters. If I watch an episode of Stranger Things, I have exposure to Eleven. Now, if I keep visiting Eleven or Michael Scott or Cookie Lyons, well, now I have a relationship here, don't I? Now, this functions very similarly to what we do in life. Many of you, when you go out of your house today, will have interactions with people. You might even meet a friend of a friend. She's really cool, he's really cool. If you keep seeing them and if you elect to keep going to the movies with them or hitting the beach or working out together, well, now you're in some sort of relationship, right? Some sort of friendship has emerged here. This is very similar to what goes on in entertainment. I myself, as of this recording, am going through Friends, the TV show. I think I'm on season 9. And so I have had many interactions with Ross Geller, the paleontologist on the show, played by David Schwimmer. I myself kind of see a little bit of me in Ross, or I feel this weird connection with him. It could be because I'm also a college professor as well. And so from that, I definitely now have a relationship with Ross. Now, before some of you think I'm losing my mind here, parasocial relationships cover a one-sided relationship. It is one-sided. I can never talk to Ross. If I start talking to Ross, I'm probably going to have to quit my job as a college professor. We don't get to talk to characters. We don't get to have these incredible, in-depth moments with these characters about, you know, what were you thinking when The Office had its fire drill, Michael Scott, or anything else, you know, regarding any of the other characters that we like. And so parasocial relationships are defined as a one-sided relationship with a celebrity, with a TV character, if you will. There is another theory that I have here that really helps explicate how we elect to follow characters. And so effective disposition theory states one of the reasons why we might watch or keep watching a particular TV show, Stranger Things, maybe the revitalization of Twin Peaks or Will and Grace, is because we have emotional alliances with characters. Okay, to get to this point, there are a few things that have to happen. First, we have to decide whether or not we care about the character. Do I care what happens to Cookie Lyons? Do I care what happens to Michael Scott? Okay, that's step one. Step two, I have to decide the morality of the character. Is this a good character or is this a bad character? Is it an ambiguous character? James Gandolfini, notorious, played Tony Soprano. Keith, can I re-say that line right there?
Yeah.
Okay. Audience members have to decide then what the morality is of the character that they're interested in. James Gandolfini, may he rest in peace, played Tony Soprano on the HBO Hits TV series The Sopranos, another TV series I highly recommend to all of you. Now, his character, Tony Soprano, was a mobster, but he had a soft heart. There were moments in which he was a good guy. He fought for his family. He cared for his family. He did provide for his family. However, he also killed people. He's a morally ambiguous character. When we think of morality of characters, what do you think is most appealing to people? A hero, a villain, or somebody who is morally ambiguous? Well, studies have demonstrated that moral ambiguity is incredibly interesting for consumers, just as, if not more intriguing than the hero in a particular show. And so morality of characters is a very, very interesting conceptual paradigm when we think of the appeal of TV shows. I also saw Breaking Bad. I hope some of you did as well. Was Walter White a villain or was he a hero? He's definitely not either one, I would argue, and I think many of you would agree the same as well. And so if we move along down the slide here, you can also see that ultimately when the audience member has determined whether or not they care about the character, what the morality of the character is, then they have to determine if they want to learn more. Do I follow this series or not? Do I care? I've already determined if I care about the character. I've already determined the morality of the character. Placing those two elements together, now I have to think about, do I continue on watching? Do I continue looking at this character and trying to learn more? I want you to highlight learning. The last thing we think about when we are watching a program is learning. Ugh. I'm not reading the textbook I should be reading from Dr. Palomba because I'm watching a TV show. The last thing I want to think about is learning. But what we do when we watch a TV show, when we watch a program, is learn. We're always learning. We learn about characters, we learn about other worlds, we learn to see what happens next. And even though we are being entertained, there is a learning component to this. It's the reason why some of you cried when Michael Scott left The Office, when he was in the airport and he removed his mic and you knew it was over. It was because you had learned so much about this character. You felt an indelible, incredible connection with him. I can remember welling up with tears when Michael Scott left The Office and when he got on that plane to go see Holly. I can still feel it today. But the reason why we have these connections with characters is because we're interested in learning. And it goes back to what we do in life. When we have friends, family, people that we care about, we learn. And usually that phrase, learning, that word, that term, is often resignated to education and to the classroom and to getting your bachelor's degree or master's degree. But we learn all the time. And in entertainment, it's as fun as it is to get people to scream and jump and hiss and shout and gaw and laugh and cry and have people emote. All of that comes from learning. And so it's important for the future TV writers in here to remember how crucial it is to get people to want to learn about your character. Not only be entertained, but to learn. To learn about your character. Why do I want to learn? I can be entertained by Michael Scott. It's not going to keep me, though. If I want to learn, that means I'm probably going to watch the entire Office series, which I wound up doing. Let's move on. Sensation seeking and catharsis. So a bit of a departure from what we were talking about earlier. Sensation seeking and catharsis are two other, we'll call them theories for the purposes of this class. Technically they aren't, but for the purposes of this class, I will refer to them as theories. Sensation seeking and catharsis are two other ways to explain why we watch TV, play video games, listen to music, and watch film. Right? That's what theories are, just as a brief review. An explanation for why something occurs. So with sensation seeking and catharsis, sensation seeking is we're seeking for some sort of sensation, some sort of excitement. This is the reason why your nephew or niece forces you on that tremendous roller coaster every summer that you're begging to not go on. Many of us seek sensation, and we seek it in different ways. We like to feel a thrill or a rush. But where does this come from? Well, if we think about our nervous system, it is wired to have a fight or flight response. And this is something that we've inherited from our ancestors. This idea of a fight or flight response. And so having that element there presents a unique opportunity to better understand why we engage our nervous system in this kind of play. Sensation seeking is something we get from roller coasters, terrifying ourselves and fighting other things that kind of put us in harm's way or danger's way. But we don't really get to engage our nervous system as much as our ancestors used to. What I mean to say is, if we think about our ancestors, and if we can all agree that at a certain point we were all in the woods, all in the jungle, we certainly didn't have buildings around at some point in human history, they, our ancestors, were running from cheetahs, lions, bears, other tribes, whatever it may be. We were all running from things, and we needed the adrenaline rush to get out of the way and to move and haul it. But we don't do that anymore. Many of you will go home tonight, or if you're in the comfort of your room or living room as you're watching me, doesn't look like there's anything that's going to be coming after you. And so in a modern society in the 21st century, we are fairly protected from a lot of different threats and evils that are lurking out there. And so because we're shielded from a lot of this, we don't really have an opportunity to engage, stimulate, or arouse our nervous system for that matter. And so sensation seeking is kind of an offshoot of that our bodies do crave to some extent. Some of us need a little bit of danger. Some of us need a lot of bit of danger. Helps us to kind of use that part of our being that really is still so primal to what it means to be human. If we look back on the slide, you can also see that we also have something called catharsis. So we might see a bunch of children, like in Stranger Things, and that's where this photo is from. This is from the end of season 1, and I will not say a word about what is in front of you because I want to make sure that some of you have seen it. Although, frankly, Stranger Things has been out now for about 3 years, so if you have not seen Stranger Things, keep it to yourself and make sure that you go watch it. Catharsis really gets at this idea of a relief. We have a lot of tension that builds up. There's tension, there's tension, there's tension, and then there's a release. And so you might be seeing 4 kids battling monsters, such as what went on in the first season of Stranger Things, as well as the second season for that matter. And so catharsis is this idea of release, that we watch tension going on, and then there's a release. Thank God she shot that monster. Thank God she destroyed that villain. There's a sense of catharsis. There's a sense of release after the tension. We live vicariously through these characters, and through catharsis, we start to feel the tenseness, the immediacy, the urgency, the exigency behind killing the serial killer or getting rid of the villain or running away from danger. And then there's a release. A release from the tension and the stress that we just had. There's something very interesting at the bottom of this slide. I think age is very much connected and related to catharsis and sensation seeking. And so children typically are afraid of things that look scary. This is why the movie It, whether it was the 1990s version or the recent movie version, is so frightening. Not just for children, but also for adults, because adults remember what freaked us out as children, and clowns are often one of the culprits. Adults are afraid of things that are conceptually dark but may look harmless. And so for adults, we're afraid of conceptual things, a little bit more so than just things that look scary. This is why the Purge series tend to be frightening, or the Saw series tend to be frightening. Sure, Saw has Jigsaw, which is represented by an evil-looking puppet, but conceptually, it's frightening that you can be kidnapped and placed in a house that is aligned and constructed to kill you. It is conceptually frightening and dark to have one day a year in which people get to kill each other, and it's legal. That's the premise and essentially the baseline of the Purge series. And so there are no scary monsters in either one per se, but what frightens us is the idea. It's the concept. Losing control as an adult is incredibly terrifying. And it has the power to shake us to our very core. If we think of who we are as adults, and everybody here who's watching this program, I imagine, is at least 18 years old or older, you're starting to get control over your lives as an 18-year-old, a 19-year-old, 20, 21. You're just starting to formulate who you are as a person, who you think you'll be in society. And so horror movies that are conceptually dark and consider how adults can lose control over their lives really provides for really engrossing content. Let's move along. Emotions in entertainment. We're constantly engrossed in content here. Emotions are something to note in entertainment. We're very much inclined to even shout things at protagonists or heroes. Watch out! Are you kidding? What the what? Run! We scream and shout these things, whether out loud or to ourselves. Our emotions are manipulated constantly during entertainment. And that really is what entertainment is for. Emotional manipulation, psychological manipulation. We look to alter our reality by going into another one. And so young audiences are exceptionally inclined toward this particular behavior. It is absolutely a coping mechanism in following along characters and cheering them along. This may be a little bit before your time, but for those of you who are familiar with Dora the Explorer, or Blue's Clues for that matter, both of these shows relied on manipulating children to emote, to scream, to shout, to engage. And I know manipulation has a pejorative, negative connotation, but manipulation means kind of a change in behavior, right? It doesn't necessarily have to be evil here. And so getting back to the lecture itself, we respond to a lot of content that we see as real. I told you earlier that I welled up with tears when Michael Scott left Scranton, Pennsylvania for Denver, Colorado to go see Holly, his love of his life. To have that emotion, to really emote, to feel it, it speaks to how much entertainment can impact us. Movies have a high fidelity, a high penchant to represent emotions. Larger screens have been found to heighten movement and to amplify emotions. And so this is for another lecture, but the Hollywood movie business has kind of become stratified across a lot of different platforms. Big screens, small screens, smartphones. Would you cry more if you saw The Notebook on a big screen versus your television? Would you laugh more if you saw The Hangover on a big screen versus a smaller screen? Emotional manipulation is a hallmark of movies, and so Hollywood currently is in a phase in which determining whether or not all movies need to be released on big screens is something to speak of and to kind of have a discussion around, especially since larger screens can heighten movement and amplify emotions. Let's move along. Mood management, the selection of media content to enhance one's feelings. So consumers are inclined to selectively expose themselves to media. It is meant to alleviate or excise negative emotions. They are subliminal in nature, and the goal of mood management is to optimize emotions. However, this is discretionary to the consumer. Some of you, I know, have broken up with a boyfriend or girlfriend in the last year. For some of you, right after that nasty breakup, you listened to sad music to make yourself feel better. Some of you listened to happy music to feel better. Now that's interesting. But that goes right into what it means for mood optimization. If my goal is to feel better, and I know I'll feel better listening to sad music, that's how I'm going to feel better. Or maybe I just want to feel sad. People are complex. And so the way that we get to where we want to get in our own mood management, our own management of our moods, even though it might be subliminal in nature and not active, follows 4 different steps. The first is the excitatory potential. It is relevant with regard to influences on arousal level. What is the message that is being sent? That's the first item here. Absorption potential. Absorbing the mood alteration of a medium. If there's high absorption, then we can suppress the original mood. Greater intervention potential. That means if I'm listening to the latest Taylor Swift song, and if I'm really looking to be happy, and I'm listening to one of her songs, like Wildest Dreams, let's say, then I might have high absorption to feel better. And because I'm open to absorbing this, it can intervene in my sadness. Semantic affinity. What is the connection between the mood and the message? If I'm sad and the media message, Taylor Swift's Wildest Dreams, is positive, they are different. And so this varies, as you can see with semantic affinity. For some people, it might be better if the media message is happy and my mood is sad. Or for other people, it might be better if my mood, or if their mood, is sad and the media message is sad. Taylor Swift's, one of her first songs was Teardrops on My Guitar. Sad song. And so with mood and with media message, it might be that connection, the sadness that you feel and the sadness of the song connect well. It could be. Again, I have at the end of semantic affinity, it varies because it depends ultimately on what fits in your opinion. That's what makes it so difficult to measure with people, because we all have different baselines and paradigms for what makes us feel better. Finally, we have hedonic valence here, the raise of one's anticipated mood based on whatever mood goal was. High hedonic valence is most effective here. So the idea is, how well did your mood rise after doing this? Excitatory potential, the idea is, what is the arousal level of the message? Then we go to absorption level or potential. What is the potential of me absorbing it? Semantic affinity, What is the connection between mood and the message itself, and then hedonic valence? How well did this raise my mood level up? Well, that's all the time we have on Late Night Learning. As always, keep laughing and keep learning.